You finally sit down to rest. The day is over. You put your feet up, maybe reach for your phone, and tell yourself it's time to relax. But your body doesn't get the message. Your thoughts keep moving. Your chest stays slightly tight, and even after 30 minutes, nothing has really slowed down. Somehow doing nothing still feels exhausting. Most people assume this means they're just stressed or that they need more time to recover. But that explanation misses something important. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the way we often rest keeps our nervous system in a state of quiet alertness, why your brain treats scrolling as a form of work, and what actually needs to change for your body to switch into a state of real recovery. Welcome to Mini Mind Hack. Many of us live with a constant low-level fatigue that doesn't disappear even when we finally have time off. The reason isn't just that we're doing too much. It's that we've lost the ability to distinguish between distraction and genuine rest. To understand why, we need to look at what your brain is actually doing when you think you're relaxing. The core problem is simple. We confuse not working with resting. From your brain's perspective, these are two completely different states. When you finish something demanding and immediately reach for your phone, your body might be still, but your mind is still active. You are processing new information, reacting to small emotional cues, making micro decisions about what to watch next. The part of your brain responsible for focus and decision-making never really powers down. It's like trying to cool an engine by revving it in neutral. The car isn't moving, but the heat is still building. This is why stopping activity doesn't automatically create recovery. Your body doesn't relax just because you've stopped working. It relaxes when it detects a drop in internal activity. If your mind is still processing, your system assumes the task is still ongoing. The signal never changes. In the 1970s, Herbert Benson, a pioneering cardiologist and professor at Harvard Medical School, described something he called the relaxation response. Benson was one of the first Western scientists to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern medicine, proving that our biology has a built-in recovery system. He identified this as a physiological state where the body shifts out of stress mode and into deep repair. But as Benson discovered, this response isn't triggered by inactivity alone. It requires a specific reduction in mental noise. If your attention is constantly pulled from one thing to another, even in small ways, that biological switch simply doesn't flip. You can be lying on a couch, completely still, while your body remains trapped in a subtle, invisible version of fight or flight. This is where modern habits create a problem. Most of what we call rest today is actually continuous input. Scrolling, watching, switching between stimuli. It all keeps the mind engaged at a low but constant level. You are not exerting effort in the traditional sense, but you are still active. You are still on. The result is a kind of gray zone where you're no longer working, but you're not recovering either. This helps explain why passive rest so often fails. It feels like a break, but it doesn't create the conditions your brain needs to actually reset. The system stays active, just in a different form, and over time, that creates the feeling that rest itself doesn't work. A useful contrast here comes from the idea of active rest. Alex Soojung-Kim Pang, a Silicon Valley-based consultant and a researcher at Stanford University, has spent years studying the hidden habits of history's most productive people. He discovered that for many of the world's greatest thinkers, the most restorative activities were not passive, but deliberate. As Pang observes, true recovery often involves a different kind of engagement. One that is structured enough to hold your attention, but calm enough to reduce internal noise. Activities like walking, cooking, or simple repetitive tasks don't overload your system, but they also don't leave it drifting in a void. They provide just enough focus to quiet the mind, allowing your brain to process the day without adding to its burden. The key difference is this: passive consumption adds input, while active rest allows processing. When you engage in something simple and contained, your attention stabilizes. It stops jumping. And that stability is what allows your system to shift out of alertness and into recovery. You're still doing something, but internally, things are beginning to quiet down. In our current environment, the difficulty is that the easiest option is usually the least restorative. It takes no effort to scroll, so we default to it when we're tired. But that same lack of friction keeps the brain in a loop of constant stimulation. You don't drop into rest, you hover just above it. So when you find yourself finishing a day, or even a weekend, and feeling like you never actually stopped, it doesn't mean you didn't rest long enough. It means your brain never switched modes. You didn't recover, you just changed the type of stimulation. Once you see that, the question begins to shift. Not, how do I stop doing things? But, what signal am I giving my brain? Because rest is not defined by the absence of activity. It's defined by the presence of the right kind of activity, one that reduces noise instead of adding to it. The next time you try to rest, try choosing something that holds your attention without overwhelming it. Something simple, contained, and slightly engaging. Not to fill the time, but to allow your system to settle. That small shift is often enough to trigger the response your body has been waiting for. Thank you for watching. If this helped you understand your own fatigue a bit more clearly, feel free to subscribe to Mini Mind Hack or share your experience in the comments. If you'd like to explore the research further, the full list of literature and sources is available in the video description and the pinned comment below. Take care. See you next time.